Peace and love to you, family. I greet you once again in the name of African-centered sovereignty. There's a subject that I have been trying to push a discourse to unraveling, to exploring, initiating or sparking a brain in our people that would be enthused to engaging in a conversation about, and that is the subject of God, or rather the God concept, in relation to our African indigenous cosmological concepts words that we use to express them are foreground in, are founded in, and what those words mean, and how those words give us access to these original African indigenous cosmological concepts, referring to incorporeal phenomena that are part and parcel of our cosmologies and ontologies as African people. And the God concept. The God concept. In one of my previous video presentation, I talked about the Indo-European origin of the term God, tracing its etymology and the values of usage to the original term from whence we have the English word God today, and how that did not have anything to do with the Judeo-Christian transferred sense into the word that originally carried no such concept, an anthropomorphic sense of some entity or some being. And I have shown that the original word from whence the term God evolved referred to a neuter, an impersonal force or power among the Indo-European peoples. Now, how does that relate to our African indigenous cosmologies? How? Europe, pervaded by Eurasian religions, which are by and large Abrahamic, Judaism, Christianity, Islam, all of which got to be presented through the prisms of anglicized linguistics, with Greece as the linguistic origins of the terms that they use today to describe a religious phenomenon, God, that I want to show you in this presentation has got nothing to do with what our ancestors conceptualized in their cosmologies. Then you have in Europe and Asia today different theistic traditions, different ways in which the existence of the supreme entity or the supreme being, anthropomorphized supreme entity or being, is conceptualized. Different ways in which they conceptualize this fall in the category of theistic traditions. Why theistic? Now you have the term Theos, which is Greek, that you find in compound terms like theology, theosophy. Then, what is Theos? Because now, this is the term that we get introduced to from the Septuagint, which is the manuscript of the Bible as we know it today, the first Bible, the first known Bible, which is written in Greek. For the English word God, we find in the English translations of this book we have in the manuscript the Greek word Theos. And what is Theos? Now, in my study of the origins, the etymology and values attached to the term Theos, I found the term as originally having been used as an adjective to describe extremities to or of that which is being described. Extremities of the object of description, then the adjective used to give the denotation of extremity to the object of description would be Theos. If you talk about something in its magnanimity, in its magnitude, in its greatness, whether it be good or bad, whether it be evil or righteous. The adjective that would be used to describe that greatness would be Theos in the Greek language. If it's something evil and you want to describe it in a way that shows its greatness, its magnanimity, its magnitude, the adjective that you would use in the Greek language would be Theos. So this is not a proper noun. This is not a person's name or a name, a proper name to a particular entity. In the original use of the term by its originators, the Greeks, in whose language your first Bible was written, and that is the Septuagint. There's no other known Bible predating the Septuagint. There is no epigraphal Bible existing predating the Septuagint, preserved somewhere either on clay tablets or sheepskin, or carved on some wall, or tomb. Non-existent. The first known Bible is written in Greek, and all other Bibles come from that one. Now, I'm not to digress, I'm still on the word Theos. So, this term Theos, because now with Hellenistic Judaism, or with the blend of a religious normative system of the Semites, known as Hebrews or Israelites, and the Greeks, you had what in historical terms is referred to Hellenistic Judaism. And Greeks, having ruled prior to the Romans, and the Romans following them, establishing an empire, so they retained Greek as the language of the learned, as the language of the sophisticated. So then the message that the Semites, the Judeans, the Jews, got blended with what they got exposed to in terms of language and culture, with them intermingling with the Hellas, or the Hellenic people, or the Greeks. And because Greek became the language of the learned at the time, the records that were made, kept, written, were in Greek. And all the Indo-European languages also had their evolution, words changing in meaning, over time, giving recourse to the Greek language. Now, you had Theos as the root word by etymology to the word theist, theistic, theism. Now, this is the word that defines all people who embraced traditions pointing at the existence of a being or an entity called Theos. But I've already shown that originally Theos did not mean what in the transferred sense by translation to the word God is now meaning. Then where am I getting at? Theistic traditions can be divided into polytheism, monotheism, pantheism, but all of them deal with Theos because they are theistic traditions. And the term Theos, for your information, was also used to describe positions of rulers. A ruler's position would be described in that term. Rulers were also Theos. Anyone who holds position of power, whether the person is wicked or righteous, malevolent or benevolent, in the original linguistic sense of the Greeks, that person would be a Theos. One possessing power or greatness. That's what Theos meant. So, you have the dual usage of the term Theos in the Greek people's, original linguistic sense of the term. In the Eurasian world, evolving, giving recourse to Greek linguistics as their reference point with the lingua franca that they got to formulate, to communicate their concepts, then they use the term theis or theos that you find in words such as monotheism, which is a belief in one theos, and you have polytheism, which means a belief in many theoses. Another one is pantheon, acknowledging the existence of different quote-unquote divinities without hierarchical denotations. Now, all of these are theistic traditions. They all trace their origin to this Greek term Theos. They deal with Theos that I've already alluded to. The drastic change in meaning that the word had undergone through appropriations and reappropriations of cultures that interacted with the Greek culture and language. And speaking as a Mosotho man, when you ask me, what is it that I believe in? First and foremost, I have to point it out, to you that our cosmology does not deal with belief. We don't even have a word for belief in our language, and language is a mode of transmission of a people's imagery as contained in the culture that it carries. So I cannot have a word that does not have a corresponding image. That my culture carries or enabled me to conceptualize about. It's either we know or we don't know. We deal with knowledge in different dimensions. In both corporeal and incorporeal states of existence, you deal with what you know. And knowledges in different dimensions would obviously have varied standards of proof. But the bottom line is we deal with knowledge. We act predicated by knowledge. We speak predicated by knowledge. We put trust on things we have prior knowledge of. So that's why we don't have words like belief, faith. Because now in our cosmology, those would be elusive terms. The English language does not have a word, one word that means trust predicated in prior knowledge or trust predicated in knowing. Because faith can mean being loyal. Faith can mean a strong belief in something without requiring you to have had prior certain knowledge of the object of belief, of the object of faith, of the object of trust. So we deal as Basotho people with tshepo, which is predicated in tsebo. Tshepo is quality or state of trusting for certain. This is predicated in knowing or experiencing something you have known to have demonstrably shown the abilities and capabilities warranting the trust that you put in it. This is not faith. This is tepo. Ukuthemba. Dumela is another captured term whose meaning was fragrantly, raped with the imposed concept, believe. When to dumela simply means to be in alignment with, to be in consonance with, to be in agreement with. So it did not mean to believe. To dumela did not mean to believe. Now, we dealt with the knowledge that our cosmologies directed us to infer, observe, acquire from how nature behaves, from natural occurrences. And we used mythos to explain what cannot be known, using our creative imagination. What cannot be touched, what cannot be smelled, what cannot be felt. We derive our concept Mudimu, rooted in the word Dimu, which means imponderable greatness or power. The Basotho people creatively imagined to be existence that did not begin anywhere, existence that has always been. And individuals who are in alignment with the frequencies of that existence, which we present as this imponderable power, imponderable greatness, Dimu. People in alignment with that, people who have become one with that, people who have departed the earth dimensional realm of existence would be called Ba-Dimu. Those one with Dimu, those intermingled with Dimu, Badimu, or Ba-Hudimu. And that is the incorporeal realm. We would, through incorporeal aspects of our being, connect with them. Badimu. And we did not feel contradictory because we were not bogged down by theistic traditions. In their differences, because we never dealt with Theos in the first place, and we were never part of theological studies in the Euro-Asian world that gave them different theistic traditions. So without any qualms, we could even unashamedly call one among Badimu, Mudimu, That is not polytheism, because demo in the first place is not in conceptual affinity to Theos. That is not monotheism, because demo, to begin with, is not in conceptual affinity to Theos. And our great ancestors cannot also be termed pantheon, because we don't describe them in the same concept, finding linguistic format in the word Theos. We simply call them the elevated ones, because demo is that cosmological place of elevation that we are oriented to develop, train, sharpen, equip ourselves toward attaining. Self-improvement, with the ultimate goal of becoming modimo, to master ourselves, to master how we connect with other life forms in such a way that we eventually, as our ultimate objective, reach that state of being modimo, of being among badimu, the state of elevation that not every ancestor reaches. Other people just depart and simply become ancestors, meaning those who have passed. So you are not going to judge African spiritual cosmology using theistic lenses to try and understand whether we are monotheistic or polytheistic or atheistic. We are neither atheists, nor monotheists, nor polytheists, because we are not dealing with Theos. We're dealing with the workings of nature, the workings of the universe, and acknowledge in our observation of the law of cause and effect the existence of the power or the force that in our pathways in life, each one of us would strive to ultimately be one with, and live from, beyond the gap of flesh. Because we understand the being of a person to be multidimensional, existing of the corporeal and the incorporeal, and which makes us, see there being more to life than what is observable, because we seek in all our endeavors to acquire knowledge, to understand life in terms of what it stands on, not only in terms of the observables. We don't need theology. Theology is a religious intellectual tradition of people in the world who are dealing with studying theistic traditions, and our spiritual cosmologies are in no way to be made analogous to how theology lenses its study of theistic traditions. We don't fall in that category. And we should not be put in that category. That's why you ended up having, through these microwaved endeavors for equivalencies, unqualified equivalencies, concepts such as African theology, Black theology. Our ancestors never dealt with theology. Theology is a Greco-Roman concept, is a Greco-Roman academic construct. It does not and will not in any way define the essence of our being and the phenomenology that explains it. So that's all I wanted to share with you today, family. Peace and love to you.